Hello, everyone. Welcome to LinkedIn Live. We are in for a treat. I'm so excited about tonight. We're going to be talking about writing your best-selling book and building your brand. And honestly, there is no one better that I know to talk about writing your best-selling book than MeiMei Fox, who has an incredible resume. But she's written 2 New York Times bestsellers. She's ghostwritten a ton of New York Times bestsellers. She's a Forbes contributor for many years, a Stanford grad. She is an executive coach. I can't even tell you how special, incredibly special this woman is to me and just what she puts out in the world. She writes about finding your purpose and this opportunity. This is, I think, your second cohort, MeiMei, of authors, and it's an incredible opportunity that is like no other. So I'm going to give you the floor to share with the audience about what you do and how, people can get involved.
Well, thank you, Cindy. I have to give a shout out back at Cindy, who is just one of my favorite people on the planet. I love her to pieces, and I think you're amazing and doing such important work as well, and dedicating so much to your TEDx events and your sisterhood and making the world a better place, which we are both very much aligned on that. So thank you for having me. So I launched an online course last year called Your Best-Selling Book. Very straightforward title because we don't want to confuse people. And it is a 6-week online program for taking you from conception to completion of your nonfiction book or memoir. And I launched this because I've spent 25 years inside the publishing industry as an author, a co-author, a ghostwriter, a journalist, a contributor to Huffington Post, to Forbes. And so I've gotten to know the industry backwards and forwards. And I have worked one-on-one with people for 25 years, but I thought I would really like to reach more than one person at a time. And so I created this course. It runs for 6 weeks. And each week there is an hour of like a masterclass seminar that's all of my insider knowledge on everything you need to know, from defining your what, why, and who, to structuring your book, to choosing a publishing model. Are you going to try to get a traditional publisher? Are you going to self-publish, hybrid publish? It's a wild west world out there when it comes to all of that. So I give you a lot of tips on that. And then all the way through to promotion. And a vital part of promoting a book is speaking, which is part of what we're speaking to Cindy about today, in order to build your author platform. And so in addition to the 6 weeks of masterclasses where you get all of this juicy information, there are weekly workshops. And I myself am hosting these weekly workshops. It's an hour a week of your time with no more than 10 participants total in your group. So we really get to know each other. And I'm telling you, this is juicy. It is so fun. We had an amazing time last fall with our cohort. Like, everybody became each other's best friends, cheerleaders, and supporters, not just for finishing their books, but for their businesses and for life in general. We're all like in communication now, and we're all supporting each other and helping each other on this journey. Plus, I'll give you feedback on your ideas. And at the end, you get a bonus session with just me, one-on-one, to talk through your book idea, and you should be in really great shape to finish your book and get it published. So that is the program that I offer, Your Best-Selling Book. And we're starting a new cohort. It begins February 5th, but registration is open now and spots are limited. We only have a limited number of spots because of the fact that I am involved live and in person on the video call to guide you through. So yeah, I would love to talk to any of you who are interested in writing a book to build your brand, getting more media appearances, get more speaking engagements, attract clients, and earn more income.
I love it. Who doesn't want that, MeiMei? I think all of us want that. And it's so interesting because we've talked about this, like it is so hand in hand. Like so many people are solopreneurs building their brand. Really, it's so important right now. And so many people want to write a book. They don't know how to get started. A lot of the TEDx speakers that we worked with, they've either written a book and maybe they've gone down a path they weren't happy with a publisher they weren't happy with, or something like that. And I'm sure you have like lots of stories just with your background of different, different hurdles that people have gone through. And that's why, after we talked about it, I thought this is such a great opportunity to share, what you offer and align with, just people that are actually on the path of sharing their story and talking to you about how to package that, how to storytell. And also I wanted to just, talk about a little bit with your background as a Forbes contributor. People pitch you all the time about storytelling and, what their story is. And so maybe you can give some people tips about that, just some quick takeaways about, just how to, pitch. And then of course, how that relates to storytelling in a book.
I mean, it's perfectly related because the same thing that you do with a pitch is the same thing you do at the opening of your book and the opening of every chapter, which we teach in the course, which is you got to lead with a hook. You've got to immediately capture interest, right? You know this, every PR pitch is this way. I'm sure everyone who applies to be a TEDx speaker, I mean, you need to grab people's attention. As my friend Stacy, who's also a PR agent, says, people have the attention span of gnats in this world right now that we live in, with all the information coming at us and all the social media and everything. And so you better have a really enticing hook, a great title for your book, a great subject line for your PR pitch. It's the same. And then a story, right? We relate to the world through stories. That's how we operate as human beings. And so people sometimes come at their books from this academic perspective, or, that's like, oh, let me quote a bunch of statistics to you, which is great. You want statistics in your book. You want to back up what you're saying. However, how are you going to get people's interest is with an exciting story. So you want to get people interested, like drop them into the middle of the action, we say. So if you go to a movie, you don't start with half an hour of lead up to the action that's going to happen, right? Especially now. That might have been true 50 years ago when you went to the movie theater, but now it's like the movie is going to open with a car chase, right? Right. And so this is literally the equivalent of that. Open your book, open your PR pitch with the car chase. Like, what is the action? What is I was on stage speaking in front of a crowd of 200 college students and I fell flat on my face. What was the lesson that came out of it? I'm just making that up off the top of my head, but that's the kind of thing you hook people with. And then you want to make it really easy. I mean, if you're talking PR pitches, you want to make it really easy for the reporter, the journalist, to know what your story is and how am I going to present this to my audience. So you want to know what I write about. People pitch me outside of my swim lane all the time, and it's a simple delete. I'm not interested. I talk about aligning your career with your life purpose. I only profile people or brands that have some kind of a social or environmental mission. If you're only about money, I'm not interested in you. So you should know that about me as you're pitching me. You should know about the person you're pitching. And then give me a bunch of story ideas. Be like, my client this could be a story about, if you're talking about a book about climate change, this could be a story related to the news right now. There are ice storms all across the country. My client can talk about why that's happening, right? Whatever it is. So you want to make it really relevant, newsworthy, give me some headlines, make my job as easy as possible.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Right? Don't you agree? I mean, you write these pitches, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is, MeiMei, can you share your journey? Because I know you and your journey is fascinating and your background is really incredible. And I feel like, that's why I feel like having access to someone like you is very unusual. It's not a video. It's not a video that they're going to be watching. You are actually going to be working with these people, the people in your cohort, one-on-one, closely. Like you said, it's a community. So maybe share with us your backstory and your journey.
So actually, technically, it's both, because you get the videos, and that's great because you have lifetime access to them and you can watch them as much as you want. And you also get the live weekly workshops. So you get both. But yeah, I have a varied background, but it all kind of feeds into the same place in my view. So I started out at Stanford. I majored in psychology. I did not major in English. A lot of people assume I majored in English, but honestly, like, literary criticism has never interested me. I'm much more interested in humans and how we work and why we make the decisions that we make, and very much in self-help and self-improvement. So I majored in psychology, and then I got a job. I was looking for a job that was just going to pay me money coming out of college, coming out of Stanford, and I had student loans, like I'm sure so many of us did. So I took a job in management consulting with McKinsey & Company, which is like a very high profile management consulting company in the San Francisco office. I was all of like 2 months into that job. And in spite of having amazing colleagues and really feeling like they teach you so much, I just wasn't aligned with my life purpose. My life purpose is undeniably to help other people and to uplift them and help make the world a better place. And I didn't feel like I was doing that. So I did my 2 years there, and then I was totally lost. I was like, what am I going to do now? Should I go back for a PhD? I wasn't sure what I should do. And I had a friend who was a doctor, an MD, PhD, who said, I want to write a book that's like a health and wellness book. And would you work on it with me? Because he knew I liked to write. So I went to the bookstore. I bought a book called How to Write a Book Proposal. This was before the internet, when you could just download all this stuff. You actually had to go to the bookstore and buy a physical book. Remember those days, Cindy?
Oh my gosh, yes. And this is such an incredible story and a beautiful part of your journey.
So I read this book cover to cover, wrote a book proposal. It was the early days of email. So I was able to email everyone I knew. And I said, does anyone know anyone in publishing who would be willing to take a look at this and give me some feedback? All I was looking for was some feedback. And a friend of mine said, yes, my friend is, very junior at Penguin Putnam, but she'll take a look at it. And so I sent it to her. And 2 weeks later, she wrote back and said, we never do this. We're buying your book.
So talk about the universe and talk about like meant to be. Be. Incredible.
I mean, I was like, if I knew then what I know now about how rare and difficult that is, I probably never would have taken it on. But sometimes ignorance is bliss. And
right. I know Sarah Blakely talks about that too with her journey, like not knowing the proper channels actually helped her skip the line,
Amazing. So the senior editor on that, who later became head of Riverhead Books, really a bigwig, big shot in the New York publishing scene, Amy Hertz, she took me under her wing and she mentored me. She found me a literary agent and she said, you can do this for a living. And I was like, do what for a living? I didn't even know what it was. And she's like, you could be a ghostwriter, a co-author. Like, there are people who need help birthing their books. And so I sometimes call myself a book doula. Because basically I've looked at it for the last 25 years. I've helped people tell their stories and get their books out into the world. And I feel really passionate about it. I love helping people find their voice and share their wisdom. And every book I work on has been about making the world a better place, helping people through life. And as I said, this is just a way to impact more people at one time. And in addition to that, I went back in my 30s after I myself got divorced. There was a major incident in my family of origin. Like, I really hit a low point at around 32 years old. And so in addition to like helping other people, I also learned how to help myself. But I spent a lot of time on self-improvement, going on Vipassana meditation retreats, becoming a yoga instructor, like reading a ton of spiritual books. And I decided to go back to school and getting master's in counseling psychology. So then I also started working as a coach to high achievers, like really people who are accomplishing amazing things, very high functioning, but want to take themselves to the next level. So I bring that expertise into the course as well.
It's amazing, honestly. And the thing, MeiMei, that's so, there's so many great things about you, but you're so humble, and to, that expression, you are the sum of the 5 people you're around with, or you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. So this is an opportunity for, and you were sharing with me the first cohort that you did, like just the incredible people, the incredible stories, and to just like, to me, to have access to that is just, it's very unusual, right? Because there's so many online courses and a lot of them are videos, and there's nothing wrong with that, or a little, like community, but you're keeping it really small. You actually get one-on-one, engagement, and you get to know everyone. So maybe share a little bit about that, because I loved hearing about some of the people, because the other thing is, so many people, I know I do in many cases, like have imposter syndrome, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to approach this person, or I shouldn't be in the room. Or meanwhile, this is exactly why these types of opportunities, which, are rare, are really valuable, like incredibly valuable.
I am so happy you said that. Thank you for saying that, Cindy, because all of us suffer from some imposter syndrome. And it is very common for people, even some of my best friends, who have expressed some interest in the course, but they're like, oh, but I really, who am I to write a book? This, like, I hear all the time, right? And I just feel like if you feel a desire within you to write a book, every one of you has a book inside you, because every single one of us has our story to share. And that story will be inspirational to some other people. I mean, I've also had people say to me like, oh my God, there's so many books out there. Sure, there are. There's also so many shows, so many movies, so many shoe brands. I mean, the list goes on. But hey, there are 8 billion people on the planet, some of them are going to be inspired with your story and resonate. So I just urge you to like put that aside, take a deep breath, step inside the course, believe in yourself. We had in the first cohort, everyone from I just saw Dr. Stephanie Cawthon pop her head into our live chat. Hi, Stephanie, if you're still there. Dr. Stephanie Cawthon is amazing. You should follow her. She's a professor at UT Austin, okay? Like a full-blown badass professor. And she is writing a book. She came into the course because she's writing a book where she's completely reframing the idea of disability. She wants access to be built in to every hospital, every university, instead of it being an afterthought to accommodate people who, for everything from they may have hearing loss or, not have great eyesight, to be in a wheelchair, whatever it is. How do we accommodate people? Because it has been proven that diversity helps to foster more powerful teams. And this is really the message of her book. And it's incredible. She posts all the time on LinkedIn. So there are people like that. And then we had just ordinary people, like a woman who is a lawyer, and she wants to tell her story about living in Paris for the past 20 years as an American. And so it's a memoir, it's humorous, like very different. We had a woman who leads like one of the only unicorn tech companies that's founded and run by a woman. She was inside the course. And then we had another woman who was like very senior at X Prize and working right under Elon Musk. And we had another woman who's a comedian who has 2 million views of her Prime Video comedy special. I mean, these are just extraordinary people. All of their stories were amazing. And then we had just, everyday, ordinary people who have great stories to share about their life, overcoming cancer, while raising children as single moms. There were those stories too. So really all kinds of runs the gamut.
Well, I think that's the other thing is just, being part of a community, and then it holds you accountable, right? So you're actually walking through the journey. And it's like, I have to be honest, like, I mean, one of the reasons when I connected with you, I've been following you for a long time, reading your articles on Forbes, loved everything about your message, and, how you really do share people's passion and their purpose. And it was one of those things that I thought, everyone, like you said, has a book and wants to write a book, but doesn't take the time or doesn't have the time or feels like they can't carve out the time, this is very manageable, right? This is something that you can, you can actually carve out the time, and you're walking them through the process, which honestly, you couldn't have a better teacher, in my opinion, So true.
Yeah, no, I'm so with you on that. Like it is overwhelming and intimidating. And the way to conquer it is to, number one, have a roadmap, which we provide an actual PDF roadmap, including the timeline and when you need to get started on your PR and marketing, and a community to hold you accountable and support you in your journey, because it's lonely and it's so easy to, stop and start or put it off. But the truth is you can do it. And with our roadmap and the framework we provide, you will come out of the course with a great table of contents, a great title and subtitle, a very clear picture of who you're writing the book for, and a bunch of little stories that you've started to collect and put into that framework so that you can finish it. And you can even work with a ghostwriter at that point if you want. Coming out of the course, maybe you decide to hire us or someone else to help you finish the book. And that's okay too. But you know what? Regardless of whether you want to finish it on your own, publish it on your own, or you want to write a book proposal and go get a literary agent and go for a traditional publisher, or you want to hire a ghostwriter, you will still benefit from the course, because you still need to understand the process, the different models of publishing, how to pursue them, and to understand what goes into promoting, because nobody does that for you. And nobody can tell your stories for you. I mean, even if you hire a ghostwriter, you're going to have to spend time with them sharing your stories. Even if you use AI, and we do talk about using generative AI, it's an incredibly powerful tool. I recommend it. It is helpful at different stages of your journey. It can help you generate a table of contents. It can help you write an introduction, but you can't rely on it fully. And I've seen a couple of courses pop up of like, write your book in 2 weeks with AI. And it's like, okay, but it's not going to be a very good book, right? I mean, it has to have you in it. Otherwise, what's the point? And then one other thing I'd like to say is, there are people who come into this course like Stephanie Cawthon who are like, I'm writing this book. I am launching this brand. I'm going to be speaking about this. Like, she had a whole program laid out before her that she has pursued. And there are also people who came in to write their memoirs, to heal wounds, to retell their story with a lot of trauma, to cast themselves as the heroes. And they may never publish it. And that's okay too. It's essentially another form of therapy. And they got so much out of the course. They were actually, some of the people who loved the course the most were people who may never publish. They just really felt empowered and like they found their voice. And they are going to share that with their friends and family. They're going to, they don't want it to go out to the whole world. They don't want everyone in the world to know their story. Who they do want to know their story, they're going to share it with their siblings, with their friends, with their children, and that was
everybody has that. Everybody has that, like that, those layers that you peel away, and to be able to share that. I mean, I got goosebumps when you said it, because I do think there's healing there, right? Even if you don't put pen to paper and eventually, write the book, there's something there to be said for just getting your story out and sharing it, even if it's internal, like you said, even with family, or it's a beautiful healing process, and with the community. So it's not like you're just going it alone. You're doing it with this incredible community that feels the same way, and you're in a safe space, and you can, and I'm sure just having participated in different groups, I feel like this would be something that, people open up and really do share things that are very, very personal, and it feels good,
It is. And we have a strict confidentiality policy. We actually ask people to sign a document at the beginning of the course that they won't share anything unless people give them permission to share it, because it is that for some people. So yeah, that was really beautiful to see. And I am very intentional about setting the tone and managing that throughout the course, that we are cheerleaders, we are supporters, we are teammates, we are each other's best friends. And, you know, if you don't want to hear one word of critique on your work, you don't have to. All you want is praise and encouragement, you know, that is up to you. And some people, they're like, no, go for it. I really want the critique. I want to, take this to the next level. I'm ready to publish. I'm ready to put it in the public eye. And other people are like, I am not ready for this. So I'm just going to share with you guys. And I just want you to cheer me on.
Yeah. And it's such a perfect blend, in my opinion, just your background with psychology for so many years, and then working with people as a life coach and being such an incredible writer. I know that's why in the beginning I was drawn to just reading your articles and just admiring what an incredible writer you are. And then to have, like I said, just to have access to that. So with the course, do people do they write a chapter and do you review it? Like, tell me a little bit about how that process works.
Sure. So we have 6 weeks, right? And each week kind of has a theme, and you'll watch a masterclass, which is like approximately 1 hour pre-recorded video that we've worked really hard on to craft that. You can watch that on your own time. And then you're going to have 1 hour within the workshop with no more than 10 people and me to workshop material. And that is really starting with getting clarity on why you're writing your book and who you're writing it for. Because as with PR, as with speaking, if you don't have clarity on that, it's going to be a bit of a jumble. So we really like to define that. Then it is developing a writing habit. Because even if you're going to end up hiring a ghostwriter down the road, like I said, you have to get your stories out there. You have to put your, what we call movie moments on page, right? And there are so many ways to do that, but I am a big believer in 5 minutes a day, not 2 hours once a week, 5 minutes a day, every day, no matter what. So we talk about that. Then we get into the structure, choosing from 4 different frameworks that I recommend for how to structure your book. Then we go into actually writing with engaging storytelling techniques. And we spend time on how do you make your story exciting and interesting? How do you keep your readers hooked? Then we talk about publishing models, which is, I mentioned it at the beginning, but I'm telling you, it is the Wild West out there. And it is probably the number one question I've been asked over my 25 years in this profession. I get so many inquiries about help. How do I do this? I need a publisher. How do I find one? How do I get a literary agent? What's hybrid publishing? I've never even heard of that. What is self-publishing? How do I do it? Where do I start? Do I just stick a PDF up on Amazon? And there are so many people, unfortunately, out there who are just ready to prey on you and take advantage of you. And I hate to say it. It really bothers me because I know it also impacts me negatively. So I am no snake oil salesman here. And I have partnered with some really amazing, trusted people to take you to the next step when you are ready to self-publish. We have recommendations for who you can self-publish with, who is a trusted resource, who will do a good job, because there are stories out there in the press about self-publishers taking the money and disappearing. Literally.
Yeah, I think I mentioned to you with one of my clients, they wrote 10 chapters of a book and then the company went out of business and then the chapters were gone. So it was like, okay, they invested so much money and then the company, just disappeared.
And I had someone else who recently approached me who said, I worked with a ghostwriter who took my 40 grand and disappeared.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I really have vetted everyone. Like everyone, I know them personally. I have vetted them. I know they're going to deliver. And then we talk about something really critical towards the end, which is, okay, now you have a book, you have to promote it. And Cindy, you're an expert in this, and I'd love to ask you some questions if you're open to it about promotion, because, even if you get a traditional publisher, which by the way, is only about 1% of books right now, it's really hard. Publisher, but you can self-publish, and self-publishing is amazing. And we talk all about that. However, no matter what, you have to promote it. They don't promote it for you. I mean, people have this like fairy tale image of Carrie Bradshaw in Sex and the City with her fabulous New York apartment.
We all want that, right?
I loved watching that, by the way, when it came out, and I was a struggling writer, like in San Francisco, being like,
"I want Carrie Bradshaw." I mean, MeiMei, you are. You're, yeah.
I'm like, I want to be going out to glamorous restaurants and events all the time in my $500 shoes. Like, what reality is this?
Oh my gosh, I know. I know.
You have to promote it. You are your own. You know, you have to build your brand. Your publishing house is not going to do it for you. They are not. It's up to you. And how do you promote? Well, this is where speaking comes in. And this is why I'm talking to Cindy. And I hope you'll give some tips to my audience, anybody who's watching, about how to be a speaker, because speaking and writing a book are completely enmeshed and entwined. Like, you write a book, you get more speaking engagements. You write a book. I was talking to a guy who works with a professional, like booker of speaking engagements. He got to triple his fees after he wrote a book.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. I mean, so many stories with TED Talks too, just, you know, similarly, because it can open doors and really put you on the map. And when you're walking into a room with a book instead of a business card, it's a game changer. And it is I can't remember the percentage, but you know, it's a very, very small percentage of people who have actually written books. And I do think that, you know, the cool thing is with promotions, a lot of times it is, you know, getting, just like your story, MeiMei, like getting in front of the right person. It's not always, you know, getting in front of thousands of people, which is great, but it's really quality versus quantity, like getting in front of that quality audience and making those connections. And you can do things as simple as like what we're doing tonight. I mean, virtual events, sharing your story, sharing your book launch. I mean, I've done lots of, you know, different events with speakers and authors and entrepreneurs, and just sharing things virtually, but then also encouraging them to get out and share their story on podcasts. And lots of times, even if it's not like the top podcast out there, it opens so many doors. It opens doors to opportunities. It opens doors to new connections. So I would encourage everybody to do that for sure. I mean, I think those are great ways. I mean, I know with TED also, like a lot of people want tips for that. I always tell them, you know, it's a numbers game, you know, because there's only a certain amount of slots on the TED stage. So that's something I feel like, you know, I wouldn't put all your eggs in one TEDx. If there's only one TEDx in your area, I would research the ones around and, you know, just submit to as many as possible. And then also like reach out and make personal connections. You know, I feel like that's very important, because it's not just like, you know, a blind pitch, like you were saying about, you know, people that send you things that are not in your wheelhouse, right? And it's kind of insulting. I know everyone's busy. We're all, you know, there's only 24 hours in the day, but, you know, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to do, like, I like to take a lot more time to do the research, but take at least a little time to do the research and find out who's involved, who you're approaching, you know, what their background is, you know, how you can actually make an impact and help them. And I think that's one of the synergies that you and I have, is that we love to share stories, like important stories, life-changing stories that are going to help other people's lives and make an impact, and, you know, inspire others to be better. And knowing that, you know, lots of people have issues, have adversity, have, like you were saying, this cohort, you're sharing painful moments potentially, and everyone has gone through them. You're not alone. So that's the beauty too.
I see Daniel Petrosky. Hi there. You had a question. I'm an aspiring fiction author. Is this stream only for business books? So my course is at the moment focused on nonfiction and memoir. That said, pretty much every lesson that we have, from choosing a publishing model to promoting your book, what we're talking about right now is completely relevant to fiction authors as well. Like you as a fiction author, you also have to figure out how to build your brand, connect with the right audience, connect with the right, right? It's the same game. So it is very relevant. Cindy, I was curious, like as a TEDx organizer, what do you look for in applicants?
That's a great question. So I feel like a lot of the submissions, it's again about, impact, right? It's, what topic is really going to help other people. It's not, and a lot of people make this mistake, and I don't mean to say it in a hurtful way, but the TED stage is not about you. It's about really your story and how it can help others, right? And so some people make that mistake. Honestly, you don't have to have a book. You don't have to be a keynote. I actually think the unsung hero, the local, people making a difference in the world sometimes are some of the best speakers on the TEDx stage. I mean, we had a woman who spoke, and she had never, ever spoken before on stage, and she worked with a coach, and her story was shared in People magazine after she's gone to Congress. It was something, very moving, and a little bit uncomfortable topic, but I feel like, sometimes you have to just take that leap. And so, there's some things, and I'm sure you've seen this too with pitches, that I don't want to say old news, but it's like the same story. And sometimes you want to make sure that you're packaging it so that it is really, really about the greater good, right? Really about something that is more meaningful. And the other thing that I love sharing this story, just because this is our 8th year doing TEDx Boca Raton. And so, and again, just for everyone who doesn't know, they're volunteer roles. So it's definitely a passion project for everyone involved in TEDx. And it does, it can really transform the speakers' lives, just like a book can, and I do think that it's one of those things that, it gives me so much joy to be able to give people a platform to have an opportunity to share their voice. And it is something that's a legacy, like a book, where, you're leaving a legacy. And, with a TED Talk, it's on line, and millions of people could see it. But again, even if 100 people see it and it impacts a few lives, you've created a legacy. I mean, everyone has a legacy in some way, shape, or form, but these are beautiful ways to leave a mark that touches future generations, right?
It's very powerful. And again, I think that the writing a book and speaking go hand in hand. They're just like very connected, because you can speak about the stuff that's written in your book. You can promote your book at the back of rooms for speaking. You can get more speaking engagements by having a book, right? And it's a great synergy. I was speaking to someone recently who said that after they spoke at a TEDx, they got like 100% of their clients because of that. So it wasn't even necessarily about getting tens of thousands of views of their talk. It was, again,
Right.
like we were talking about, right, of connecting with the right people. Like, this is, I think, so important to understand in the world that we live in now. We get so obsessed with numbers, right? Because we can see the likes and the views and the followers and that's all great. But then there is a way in which, like, if it's the 100 best people who are in the room at the TEDx event that you're speaking at, or, the 100 people who might be your future clients who are reading your book.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a bestseller, or it doesn't have to be millions of views. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, no. And we've talked about that a lot, like offline, just how I feel like the culture and the world that we live in, focuses so much on likes and followers and engagement, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I always say, like, people that are influencers, a lot of them are making an impact, but I feel like, you can make an impact with, micro influencers with 1,000 followers, sometimes like, moms in communities who are doing things like, with animals or kids or whatever it is. I mean, I know you're involved, and myself as well, like with some, charities, and maybe you can share a little bit about that too, MeiMei, because I think that also ties in beautifully to what we're talking about, and just different, ways to make an impact, even if it's, once a month doing something or contributing to something. I think it creates this ripple effect, right? And it really touches other people, and it gives you joy too. I know for myself it does.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's like, just believe in, there's not one pie and the slices are going out. Like, it's just like, let's make the pie bigger. I'm a total let's make the pie bigger person. I believe that when we uplift each other, when we support each other, when we promote each other, the work that we do for nonprofits, I mean, that's critical to my life. Like, I wouldn't feel fulfilled if I wasn't doing that. I'm involved in an organization called Hope Foundation, which I went and visited in Kolkata, India in 2004. And I started sponsoring a child, and it started with just sponsoring a child for like $350 a year to take them off the streets where they are victims of human trafficking and abuse and addiction, and putting them in a safe home, but still very connected with the community. And that's what I really love about this organization. They don't take the kids. It's not an orphanage. It's like, we just give you a supportive environment to learn and grow. We feed you, we teach you, but you're still very much part of your community. And if there's any family members who are still part of your life, whether they be parents or aunties or uncles or siblings, you stay connected to them, because they also know that at some point you're going to be 18 and you're going to go back out into the world. And so many of the people who go through, the kids who go through this program, they end up then volunteering with the Hope Foundation after they leave to help others. It's so beautiful and meaningful. And there's a hospital that serves low-income people. But yeah, that kind of work, I sit on the board now for the Hope Foundation USA. But yeah, it's, just giving where you can, and anything. And in your local community too. I've worked at the food bank where literally I'm like, taking boxes of food that are donated from Safeway and Costco and loading them up into boxes and handing them out to people who don't have enough food to eat. There's so many ways that you can get involved. Get involved in your kids' school, like you said, or get involved in the TEDx, help organize and spread positive messages to the world.
Yes. And that's the other thing. Oh, I was going to share this really great story. One of our speakers from several years ago, she was literally a volunteer for years for TEDx. Like, she learned behind the scenes, like she came to volunteer, then she volunteered as a photographer for our events, and she learned the lay of the land. She got, and it didn't, it gave her a leg up as far as knowledge, right? Understanding the process. And then she submitted, and she was amazing. Now she's done 2 TED Talks. She's actually an organizer now. So I feel like, also just, the culture that we live in, everybody wants like, fast results. And I feel like sometimes, it's about the journey, right? So if you need to volunteer for a few events before you can, it'll give you more knowledge behind the scenes to sort of understand and navigate. And then also, reach out in an authentic way to other volunteers, committee members, organizers. I mean, again, everyone's a volunteer, so they can't, spend a ton of time working with every single speaker, but at the same time, they will definitely help you in any way that they can. I know that I certainly will. And, it goes back to what we've talked about, MeiMei too, just, experience, right? There's something to be said for experience, and there's nothing wrong with, having a year of experience, because I've seen this too. Like, someone will, like, get on the TED stage and like like a week later, create a story or a book, or not a book, a course on how to get a TED Talk. And it's like, that's, to me anyway, it's like, I would rather, if I'm going to be thinking about writing a book or write a book, work with someone who knows the landscape, has done it. It wasn't just kind of like a one-hit wonder situation. So that's something else I think that is so important with really anything. I mean, it's not just about writing books or, building a brand or getting a TED Talk. I mean, that was another reason why, again, just having known you and read your stories and knowing there was so much depth there, we connected years ago because I was drawn to that, right? It's not just because, a lot of people, like you said, it's like, if someone just, is pitching you and their story is about just making money, it's like, that's a turnoff. And I feel like sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you and I have talked about it a lot. Like, you should know your worth and you should want to get paid for what you're worth. And there's nothing wrong with embracing that too, because I think also as women, sometimes we, shy away from that. But at the same time, experience to me still matters, right? I mean, I think that's something that's really important.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. What have you seen? Like, what do you see as the most kind of impactful or viral TED Talk that, like, what makes it impactful or viral, or
Yeah,
really,
I feel
like a great talk? How would you define a great talk? What's a great talk where you see that because you've been doing it for 8 years and you're like, yes, they nailed it? What is that?
Well, it's interesting because there's anyone who wants to do a TED Talk should watch this video. This woman, June Cohen, who worked for TED for many years, she has a video called "What Makes a Great TED Talk," and when you open the video, it says, "What makes a great TED Talk?" Well, we don't know what makes a great TED Talk, but then there's like all these components to what makes a great talk. And I do have one of my favorite talks that that I worked, with closely with this. We work closely with all of our speakers, but one of our speakers, her name is Dr. Margaret Rutherford, and she wrote a book called Perfectly Hidden Depression. And I feel like her talk, when it went live, started going viral, and that was the name of her talk, Perfectly Hidden Depression. Because it was so meaningful and so powerful. And I feel like her talk is saving lives. I really, really believe that. And I feel like, creating that, opportunity where so many people, and I've shared it with so many people, and they, it's just about normalizing feeling, a lot of people, on the outside look like they're perfect and everything is great. And then behind the scenes, there's a lot of pain going on. And in the world that we live in, it's like we all have to be on all the time, right? And so I just feel in that particular case, I feel it's so rewarding that her talk is going viral, that it's making an impact, that I believe it's helped saving lives. And it's also opened other doors for her, other speaking opportunities, other opportunities to make more money speaking, which then helps feed her business to help reach more people. So that whole chain reaction. So to me, those are the types of, I mean, there's been so many, but that one in particular really was, I felt like a personal excitement getting that type of message out there, because I know it's impacting lives and helping people. And a lot of people feel that way, it's like, especially coming out of COVID, and I'm sure just, people opening up to you and the stories that you share in Forbes, and, even the books that you've written, and even the cohort that you're running. I mean, it's like people have these personal, we all have them, personal journeys and stories and struggles. And it's beautiful to be surrounded by people that, make you feel like it's acceptable, right? That's okay.
Yes. Oh, that's so well said, Cindy. And I love that story about perfectly hidden depression. What a good title, though, too. Well done.
She's brilliant. And
early standpoint is really good. Yeah. Because you can instantly sense that, right? It's like all image on the outside, but on the inside, a lot of us are suffering, as you said. So, yeah.
Yes. And you know, what's what you said resonated with the movie moments, like literally just getting on that stage and like opening with something that really hits people and grabs people's attention, you know?
Yeah, you have to, right? And it's interesting because I was just reading an article by my friend Chip Connolly. He's published something like 7 books. It's ridiculous. And he runs the Modern Elder Academy. He just wrote a new book about the wisdom of midlife, which I'm really excited to read. And he did a TED Talk on it. But it's funny because he said over the years, his TED Talks have gotten shorter and shorter. Like the first one was like 20 minutes. And then the next one was like 12 minutes. And this last one on the wisdom of midlife is like 3 minutes. And I see the same. I don't know if you guys are focused on that, but yes, I see this.
That's happening more and more. They're getting shorter, but some of the short talks are so powerful.
But that's the thing. And he said that too. It's like, you don't need 20 minutes. Like you can have a really powerful 3-minute speech. Guess what? Same thing with books. So one of the things that overwhelms people, I mean, I literally had someone say to me, I don't have 60,000 words in me. I burst out laughing. I was like, who said 60,000 words? Who has time for 60,000 words? Like 60,000 words is a pretty significant book. Just if you're not familiar with word count, that's how we work in the publishing world. But because you can't do page count because you don't know how many words are on each page. But like, I would say 60,000 is like a fairly hearty and substantial. Like 100,000 is a huge fat tome. And a lot of books these days are 30,000 words. It's a thin little book, right? And 30,000 words, if you break that 10 chapters, and each chapter, an introduction, a conclusion, and 8 chapters is then 3,000 words. And 3,000 words you have written for a college essay before. I guarantee you have written 3,000 words.
Yes.
Okay, suddenly it's like, oh, wait, so I just have to write 10 college essays? Right. And actually 8, because one's an introduction and one's a conclusion. I can do that.
It makes it much more doable.
We don't have time for 20-minute TED Talks or 60,000 word books, right?
It's so funny because so many people have reached out to me and said, you know, that have pitched for TED Talks or will pick my brain about it and say, I only got 7 minutes. Does that mean there's something wrong? You know, and I'm like, no. And you'd be so surprised how you could deliver an incredibly powerful talk. I've watched some 6, 7, like you said, 3 minutes, like really, really powerful talks, and you take away just like something that really makes an impact. So yeah, I think it's definitely not about, you know, the length, whether it's a book or the TED Talk, you know, and there are some longer talks that are amazing, but at the same time, I feel like you can be incredibly impactful in a really short period of time, you know, so
yeah,
I feel like there were a couple questions I wanted to ask, you know, let everybody know if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we're happy to answer them. And I did want to just kind of touch again on the AI thing, MeiMei, because so many people like, just again, any tips that you have. I think for me as a, you know, owning a business, public relations and press releases, I think it's a great opportunity to, you know, save time, but not to utilize that as instead of, right? It's a great maybe like opportunity to get a jump start or, you know, clear writer's block or something like that.
Right? That's exactly what I recommended for it. Precisely that. I'm like, hey, if you have writer's block, do that. Or if you're having trouble, some people have trouble, like they are coming from academia. We had 2 academics in our last cohort. And so they're used to writing, actually 3, very, you know, academic papers for academic journals. And now you have to switch your voice to being more approachable, and AI can help you with that. You could plug in something academic and say, make this more approachable, make this like more chit chatty and easy to understand, and it'll help you do that. I also like using it to like help generate a straw man, right? So if you've heard the term straw man, right? So it's like, hey, the worst thing for almost everyone is staring at a blank page. Right? You know, we just it makes our skin crawl, right? So don't stare at a blank page. Go to ChatGPT and ask it to generate a few paragraphs on your subject for you. Do not copy and paste that and make that your book. Like, it's not going to be a good book. It's going to be way too generic. It's not going to be about you, but it puts words on the page, and it might have some really valuable, also for structure, like for generating a table of contents, a great straw man for like a table of contents. So yeah, I do think there are opportunities to use it. There are, you know, ways. It's a tool to harness. It's not going to write your whole book for you because it's not lived your life. And Dr. Felix, thank you for your comment and chiming in on the importance of experience. This is what we're talking about. What are you bringing to your book? What are you bringing to the stage as a speaker? Your experience, your lived and felt experience. I'm sure Cindy would agree, as that's what you want from speakers. If you're spouting some like, you know, this study said this and this study said that, I mean, again, you need the studies to back up what you're saying. Yes, for sure. But, you know, if you're being ChatGPT and talking about the growth of the clean beauty industry over the past 10 years is blah, blah, blah. I mean, nobody's going to care. You have to talk about you. We want to hear about your experience. And yes, bring your experience to the page. Bring your experience to the stage. That's what people resonate with. And vulnerability. I'm sure you also talk to your speakers about this. Like vulnerability, being authentic, sharing the times when you've struggled, when you've failed.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
It brings way more people to your team than just talking about your success, right?
Oh yeah. No, when you start peeling away the layers, and I also think it makes people much more approachable too. It's like, you know, people start to think, oh wow, you know, they're not perfect, right? And again, MeiMei, you're a perfect example of that. Like when you look at your credentials, it's like, wow, okay, and you're here and you're so humble and you're so authentic and you've shared vulnerability. I mean, it just makes people want to connect and, you know, just be part of that, you know, community. And I think it's a very, very valuable, more than ever. I feel like it's a valuable way to really put yourself out there in the world and make a difference, right? I mean, because if you're just parroting, and a lot of people do this, and I'm not criticizing them, but I feel like people can see the difference, right? If you're parroting, you know, like a thought leader or a, you know, and there's so many, you know, self-help and personal development books, and so many are amazing, but it's like constantly like hearing the same thing. You can scroll and hear the same thing again and again and again. It's like, okay, tell me a little bit, like you said, be more authentic. Tell me about your story. Tell me about your journey. Tell me about why you should be the one to be sharing this story because of, you know, your background. So yeah, I think that's also really, really beautiful. And yeah, it's just an important point, and something I'm sure that's part of your course as well, that you're sharing with people how to uncover that and be okay with it, because I feel like sometimes people are a little afraid to do that.
And you have to find a balance, right? Like I tell people, I'm like, you don't put everything that you've ever done out there. If there's stuff that, you know, you do need to draw boundaries. Like there is a place for saying, you know, that piece of me I'm not going to share. But you also have to let your guard down and put that, you know, and let people in by sharing some of the struggles as well. So, you know, you figure that out as you go through the course. And Dr. Stephanie Cawthon, thank you for chiming in again. So delighted to have you here on our LinkedIn Live, because you guys should all follow her. She is Stephanie Cawthon. You'll see her in the comments. I'm following. She's like my LinkedIn goddess. Like I like bow to her. She is a phenomenal thought leader, expert voice on, accessibility. And she just said that AI has been really helpful for her translating her language from academia to, kind of this common vernacular. It's more like, chit chatty sort of way that you want to communicate. Yeah.
So smart. So smart. And I think we're coming to a close here. We're reaching the end of the hour. And I just wanted to say thank you to Jim Fuse, who is behind the scenes, our amazing producer. So Jim, thank you so much. And can you also add in the chat again? I know you had it, but maybe you could just put it up again. The link to MeiMei's course so that it's right there, front and center. If anybody, I mean, and the free mastermind. When is that? The mastermind? You have that coming up?
We had a free 30-minute video that was published prior to the course opening. That is now down, and the course is open for enrollment, and the 30-minute course will be done, at a later date. But right now, the course is open for enrollment. So just visit through Cindy's link and writeyourbestsellingbook.com. And then you have a link to share, which I'd love for you to visit so we know you're part of Cindy's community. Because if Cindy can pull a couple of people into the course, then we will do a bonus free 1 hour with just Cindy's people. Okay? Just me and your people, Cindy. Just me and your people who came in through you. A bonus hour. And that has a lot of value. So at the end of the course, we'll schedule a special hour just for the people who come in via Cindy and her link. So you will be supporting her, but you will also be supporting yourself. So I hope to see you inside the course. But click on the link, visit. There's all the information's there. It's extensive. You can read all about it and then chat with us real quick, and we'll get you signed up.
Yeah, it is extensive. It's amazing. And it's also like, it's very reasonable, like to have access to everything that you're providing and have you and not just a video that you're signing up for. It's really incredible. So I would encourage everyone to check it out. I want to thank you, MeiMei, and the audience, and just so excited, so excited that you're making this available, because I know so many people reach out and now you can help them, and in smaller groups. And it's incredible. It really is incredible to be able to get access to you and your team, and also all the experts that are going to sort of walk you through and handhold you through the process. So Super exciting. Yeah. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. I learned so much. I got goosebumps with some of the stories. So you're amazing. Incredible. I'm so one of your biggest fans, if not the biggest. So, and I can't wait to connect with Dr. Stephanie.
Yes. She's awesome. Yes. I love each other too. Cindy, thank you. I feel the same about you. So thank you so much for having me.
Yes, this was so great. Okay, everyone, have a great night. And thank you again.
Everyone who participated. Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.